So last class we had started off with what is cyber law, the need and importance. Today we'll be discussing what does the cyber law deal with. It deals with cyber crimes, electronic and digital signatures, intellectual property, data protection and privacy. So each of it, these points we're going to discuss in detail, starting with cybercrime. What is a cybercrime? It is otherwise called as a computer crime. It is the use of computer as a tool or a target or both. The enormous growth in e-commerce and online trading has led to incidents of cybercrime. Now, I already have mentioned to you, right when we started this cyber law, that is last class, we saw the first slide itself that a man, right, can do more damage or harm using a keyboard or using an internet than a man can do much harm using a gun, right? So that is what applies to what today we see the growing number of cyber crimes reported, right? I also showed you the graph in the last class, how much of cases have been reported over the years, and especially in 2019, how many cases have been reported, correct, about cyber crimes. So it is a crime that is using computer as a tool or a target or both. Okay, now why has this increased? Now because everything, the entire world, more than people active in the physical world, we are all active in the digital world, right? And more of purchase and sale of products or services, everything happens online, correct? Be it product or be it rendering of service or ordering for a service or booking a service, etc. So there is enormous growth in e-commerce, which has definitely led to the rise in the incidence of cybercrime. Now here we see cybercrime is divided into three different categories. It is committed against a person, it is committed against a property, and it is committed against a government. Okay. Now I'm going to give examples on all the three categories for your understanding. Now cybercrime that is committed against a person, number one is cyber stalking. Now, what is cyber stalking is it takes place using any kind of electronical devices. It can be a mobile phone, it can be a computer, laptop, iPad, etc. There are several forms, especially for an example, placing orders for delivery in someone else's name, right? Or it can be gathering personal information on a victim, right? You can here we can see on social media or Facebook, Instagram, where people are using personal information of somebody else and replicating them. Yes or no? So that is called as cyber stalking. Number two, it is impersonation. This attack may also involve a message that appears to be, let's say, from a trusted authority. Have you come across certain websites, or when you open some other website or a video or an application, the first page itself shows, or you might get an email that it is coming from a trusted, let's say, from a CEO of a company, right? Or from, let's say, for an example of a Netflix. When you open switch on your TV and would want to watch Netflix, you get a message that your recharge has expired, fill in the details to recharge again. So you go there and fill in your credit card details. So it is actually not the Netflix owner or the service provider, but it is somebody else actually impersonating, or I would say he's imitating himself to be a company's owner or a higher authority, etc., just to gain information. Or it might even initiate a bank transfer, a bank account transfer. Then only later it proves to be what? Fraudulent. So this person who's trying to imitate somebody or try to use somebody's name or a company's name or a service provider's name may ask the recipient. That means if you're clicking on that link on that page where you have to fill in the details and you have to enter all your bank credentials and log in, then the other person, that is the hacker, might get access to your personal data, business data, computer personal information, etc. But you will not know, only you will know only on a later point of time. When you're giving in your details, for you, you know, okay, this is Amazon's website or this is a particular bank's website. So my information that I'm entering is absolutely safe and secure. Yes or no? So that is what happens. Number 3 example is loss of privacy. Now, for this, what can I give an example? Let's say a person, a person is going to find a credit card, right? Or he steals a credit card of somebody, right? And he changes the mailing address of the account, and then he might get all the other details, right? Using a person's identity, maybe you can get a passport, a driving license, or even you can even get a bank loan based on that personal information, right? Now your privacy, or I would say your personal data, is everything lost. So that person can use your credit card, your private information or bank account details, and he can start enjoying using your personal money or your personal uh, details, right? So now with this, all these details, he can go further and even draw another bank loan, and he might not pay it back. Now when the bank has to check back why the person is not paying back the loan amount that he has taken, they will again get back to you, because you are the original credit card holder. The identity is yours. Yes or no? So the original card holder might remain unaware of this until the debt is so great that the bank actually tries to contact the real account holder. So only then will the account holder get to know that his credit card has been stolen or missing, and these transactions have happened without his knowledge. So anytime you're going to lose a debit card or you have lost a credit card, the first thing you need to do is inform your bank, right? Inform the respective bank branch or a bank manager that my card has been lost on so and so date. So any further, if anybody is going to, please block the card so that whoever has stolen my card or has found my card will not make benefit out of it, right? So that's the first thing you need to do in case you're going to lose your cards, that is your debit or credit cards. First inform the bank manager or inform that your card has been stolen or it has gone missing, and please block the card, so that if even the person who has stolen the card tries to use it in ATM or tries it for some other transaction, the transaction will not be processed. Is that clear? So these are the different kinds of crimes that can be committed against individual. Number 2 is against property. Stealing confidential data. Now data theft, like it means an act of, it is illegal, definitely, and it is completely unauthorized copying, or you can either remove the data or steal the confidential data or a personal data with respect to a business organization without consent. Yes or no? The very word stealing means what? You are not having any access, or you have not been granted any kind of permission from the business property or the business or the organization. So there is every company is going to have some kind of confidential or private data with them. So cybercrime against property is when they steal such confidential data. The other one is transmission of harmful programs. Now, in case you're not able to break through, in case I mean to say the hacker is not able to break through the system's details or steal confidential data, he might even transmit harmful programs. Just a small downloading, or you click on the mail link, or a message might appear on your desktop that there is a virus, you need to click on this link to clean out the virus, or you need to refresh your system or restart your system, etc. right? So that is the way you're going to transmit, or the hackers transmit harmful programs. Now, what does these harmful programs do to the computer? It might cause harm to the computer system, right? It might perform various functions. It can steal the data, encrypt the data, delete everything that is on the computer, right? Any kind of sensitive information, delete it, or you might even change, right? Alter the existing data, etc. So once you put in the harmful programs, these are the various functions what those malwares or viruses can do to a system, and this will definitely impact the organization system, or if the data is being stolen, definitely it has to worry the uh, authorities of the company. These are the two examples against the crime committed against the property. The last one, against government. It is hijacking of government websites. We have definitely heard, right? Now we have seen government Instagram websites, or even the RBI website, or any kind of government oriented or government owned website have always been attempted to hijack or hacking. That is to exploit a computer system or a private network inside a computer. Now all these computer, let's say it's a defense system, they have their own internal computer network. Okay, what's on the outside that the public can see might be a different network. What's for the internal, that is only the defense academy might know, or only the military or the police, right? There is an internal network, okay, that is on the website. Now against a crime that is committed against government can be an unauthorized access to that private computer network. Okay, and of course you're going to use it for the wrong purpose. Next is cyber extortion. Now you would have heard about this topic. Cyber extortion, now it is a crime where it involves an attack or a threat against an enterprise, okay, or it might be against a government, where you're going to demand or demand a ransom, right? If I would say I have hijacked, or I have hacked your system, and the hacker is going to tell, unless and until you're going to pay me so and so amount, or if you're going to release so and so terrorist from the jail, right? So I'm demanding something from the government, only then will I release the website from hacking, or I would not steal any of your sensitive data. I will leave the data as it is, which belongs to the government, provided you do or you fulfill my demands. Example, it can be releasing of a terrorist, or it can be sending lakhs, 10 lakhs of an amount, or 50 lakhs, or 1 crore, 2 crore, whatever the amount is. Unless you make the payment within 1 hour, I'm going to steal the data. You're not making the payment, I might steal the data, I might destroy the entire private network or the sensitive information, right? It's basically a threat kind. Got it? So these are the different kinds of cyber crimes that is occurred. It's against person, property, and government. Hope you have understood with the examples. So second one where the cyber law deals with is electronic and digital signatures. Now we all know that any mail that we get, or even the offer letters that if you guys are going to get once you get placed in certain company, are all using digital signatures. Why? It is an authentication for electronic records. So the Information Technology Act provides that any subscriber can authenticate an electronic record by affixing his digital signature. So digital signature requires the authenticity of a sender, the message integrity, and non-repudiation. Now here we are looking is that cyber law not only deals with crimes, but it also makes sure these electronic or digital signatures, whatever is being authenticated from a particular company or enterprise or government or a service provider, etc., is being covered under the cyber law. Number 3, intellectual property. We have studied an entire chapter about it, that is the Patent Act. Hope you can remember how we began with what is intellectual property. It is a property that includes intangible creations, correct? Now we also studied about the intellectual property rights, commonly called as IPR. So what are those? It refers to the legal rights that is granted with the aim to protect the creations of the intellect. So cyber law also takes care of certain things with respect to intellectual property such as patents, trademarks, etc. Number 4, data protection and privacy. Now, data protection refers to the set of privacy laws, policies, and procedures that aim to minimize intrusion into one's privacy caused by collection, storage, and dissemination of personal data. Now, here not only does the cyber law deal with in case there is a crime, how do I find the hacker, how do I punish them or take action upon them, but also cyber law focuses on data protection. It is today that the entire world is in the digital form, and that we have iCloud services, or we have storage services using cloud data, cloud computing, what we call it as. It is important that it can be an education institution, a government institution, or any normal company would always make its efforts in protecting its own data, correct? Now cyber law is also going to set certain privacy laws, policies, and procedures. Why do you think this is necessary? This is aiming at minimizing the intrusion. Intrusion means what? Interfering. Okay, interfering. That the third party who's nowhere connected with our company tries to interfere or tries to gather data which is confidential. Okay, so when we are security policies and laws are strong enough, then that can stop or minimize the intrusion into one's privacy. Okay, that is caused by either the person can collect the data, they can store the data elsewhere, or they can put out the data for the public, right, which is personal or confidential. These are the 4 different areas where the cyber law is being covered. Next, we have cyber security. Now, we have understood what is cyber law, what is the need and importance. We also understood what aspects does it cover. Now, the last topic for the chapter is cyber security. Now, what are the possible ways that a security can be broken down, and what are the solutions to make it up? So with an increasing amount of people getting connected on the internet, the security threats that cause massive harm are also increasing. So it is necessary, since it helps in securing data from threats such as data theft, misuse, also safeguards your systems from viruses. Now, why cybersecurity is important, we just looked at it, right? We saw numerous crimes that is committed against a person, against a property, against government, correct? So in order to avoid all of this and able to protect our data, protect our network, we need to have a strong cyber security. Let's see what are the major problems. Number 1 is virus and worm. A computer virus is a malicious software program loaded onto a user's computer without the user's knowledge. Now, there are certain viruses or worms that is being loaded or downloaded into the computer without the user's knowledge, correct? So, inserting itself onto other programs, files, which is going to affect the other data stored in the computer, or it might even impact the entire way of how the system even works. A computer worm is a type of malware that spreads copies of itself from computer to computer, just like the bacteria or the viruses that spread into our body, right, from the cell to cell. It just keeps multiplying itself. It is similar to that a computer worm, that it starts spreading the copies of itself from computer to computer. Now, what is the solution to overcome this security problem? Is to install a security suite that protects the computer against such threats such as virus. Number two is hacking. Now we have already seen what is hacking, correct? It is an attempt to exploit a computer system or a private network inside a computer. Simply put, it is an unauthorized access. Now we already know what is hacking, and under hacking there are two types, okay? Ethical hacking and non-ethical hacking. Ethical hacking, what I can define is where with the permission of the user or the company or the owner, you're going to find out the loopholes in the security and fix them. Okay, so what this guy is going to do, or the system is going to do, is going to check where are the possible ways, for an example, let's take an example of a home. Even though you have the main door locked with a good lock, or the wardrobes or the security lockers with a very good system, still there can be possibility of a robber or a theft happening. So you call in a home security personnel, where they come and take a good check at the complete home and see where are the possibilities that a thief can enter into the home. They might identify certain window places in a kitchen or a washroom, etc., and they will identify these are the places they can enter, even not if not from the main door, or if not from the any other way, through the windows in the kitchen they can barge into the house, and it might cause damage. And they might give even a solution that put up, maybe for an example, a grill, right? A grill, wherever there is a glass area, put up a grill, so that way it is going to be more secure. This example you can apply it even for a computer system. Ethical hacking is where the person identifies possible security loopholes and tries to fix them. Opposite, what is unethical hacking is this. It is an attempt to exploit a computer system or a private network inside a computer, because the purpose here is to damage data or damage a computer, or use somebody's personal data, etc. What is the solution for this? Effective security controls, including strong passwords. We all have the habit of using the same passwords for what we use it for a phone password, we use the same for even a bank account password or an ATM password, correct? Do not do that. Always use different passwords for different access of information, for a bank account, for a phone, or because on the phone we have lot of payment apps today, correct? So it is always more secure to have a different passwords for each one of them, because if one password is going to apply to all the transactions, so it is more easy for the hacker to hack into your system or your bank account. Number 3, malware. It is an intrusive software that is designed to damage and destroy computers. Now these are certain softwares which are designed to what? Damage and destroy the computers and the computer system. So the complete operating system in the computer itself, the malware can damage or cause harm. So what is the solution? Download an anti-malware software that also helps prevent infections or any kind of intrusions. So activate network threat protection, firewall, and also antivirus. Number 4 is Trojan horses. These are email viruses that can duplicate themselves, steal information, or harm the computer system. Now, every day, since we are living in the digital world, we receive thousands and thousands of emails on our mail ID, correct? Now, not every one of them are genuine, because as the statement that we see here, there are certain things called as email viruses. So what do? They steal information or harm the computer system the moment you click upon the mail. What is the solution? Security suits such as Avast Internet Security will prevent you from downloading such kind of emails. So it will start filtering all such virus emails and it will not allow it to reach to your mail ID possibly. The last one, password cracking. Attacks by hackers that are able to determine or find passwords to different protected electronic or social networking sites. So the easiest way for anybody to hack a system, because everything has a password now, correct? So is to crack that password. The earlier a hacker can crack the password, it's easier for him to hack a particular system, mobile or a computer network. So what is the solution? Securing password. Always use a strong password. Don't use your name, your school name, your college name, your friend's parents' name, or your date of birth, or let's say the month that you were born, etc. Try avoiding all this. Use unusual names or unusual characters or symbols in order to what? Have a strong password. And never use, as I told earlier, the same password any two different sites. Is that clear? So these are the 5 different security problems: virus and worm, hacking, malware, Trojan horses, and password cracking. So with this we complete our cyber law chapter and also the syllabus of business regulations.